My name is Lucas Bishop, I'm 28, and I've spent my entire life in the shadow of a family that's both my greatest curse and my greatest disappointment. My mother, Margaret, is a picture of perfection, a woman who can host the grandest holidays with a smile that never falters. My older brother, Ryan, has always been the golden child, the one who could do no wrong in my mother's eyes. Me? I've always been the one who fades into the background, the one who takes care of everything, but gets nothing in return. Always overlooked, always the afterthought. I never expected much from them, but when I got the call from my mother saying, "We don't need you this Christmas," something inside me snapped. That was the moment I realized I was no longer a part of their perfect world, and the shocking truth behind our family's fortune was waiting to destroy everything. I should have known better than to think the truth would stay buried forever. The phone call felt like a slap. It came early, just as I was tying my shoes, half distracted by the Christmas tree lights flickering faintly in my dim apartment. My mother's voice was clipped, businesslike, even as she told me in no uncertain terms that I wasn't needed this year. "It's just going to be a small gathering," she said, like that made it sound normal. Like I was supposed to just accept it. For years, I had been the one to handle everything, the guest list, the decorations, the menu. Hell, I even picked out the damn pajamas for the family photos. But this year, she'd chosen Ryan, the golden child, to play the part of the dutiful son. That's when I understood. For her, Christmas was a show. And for me, I was nothing more than an understudy waiting for his cue. "You can skip it," she added. "It's fine." "Really?" I pressed the phone to my ear, silent, feeling the weight of it. This wasn't just about Christmas. This was about everything. The years I had spent proving myself, holding things together, and never asking for anything in return. The realization hit hard, I was disposable. And in that moment, a small, cold part of me snapped. "Don't bother coming," she repeated. "No need." The words echoed in my mind. I could hear the finality in her voice, the disconnect. She had made her choice. I thought about my father, who had disappeared years ago, a man who never quite fit in with my mother's polished image. His absence had left a void in our family, a gap that Margaret had filled with her own brand of control. Ryan was perfect in her eyes, and I was just a man on the periphery, doing all the dirty work. But no more. This year, I was done. I hung up, my throat tight. There was no way I could sit back and watch them turn me into a ghost. Not anymore. I went straight to my laptop, opening up the files I had stored away for emergencies, files that detailed my family's finances. I had never dug deep before, never questioned where the money came from, or why my mother seemed to have such a tight grip on everything. But today, something was different. Today, I was going to get answers. A few clicks, a few passwords, and I was in. The first file that popped up made my heart skip. There, in front of me, was an encrypted document. I hesitated, fingers hovering over the keys. But my curiosity outweighed everything else. I clicked it open, the screen flashing for a brief moment before revealing a series of transactions, signatures, and names I didn't recognize. But the amount was clear. $850 million. And it wasn't just a number, it was my family's dirty secret. A secret that, until now, had been carefully hidden away. I leaned in closer, scanning the documents. The transactions were linked to offshore accounts, shell companies, and properties around the world. This wasn't just some family wealth, it was something far darker. My mother was involved in something criminal. Something vast. Something dangerous. The reality settled in like a cold wave. My family wasn't just dysfunctional. We were part of something much bigger. And it wasn't just about money. Just as I started piecing everything together, I heard a knock at my door. I froze. Someone was out there. My pulse quickened, and I stood up, glancing at the screen one last time before shutting the laptop. The knock came again, sharper this time. Someone knew what I had found. Someone had been watching me. I wasn't sure how, but I knew they had. And now, I was the target. I walked toward the door, barely breathing. My heart raced, every instinct telling me to stay quiet, to pretend like I hadn't seen anything. But it was too late for that. The moment I opened the door, the figure standing in front of me was not what I expected. It wasn't a neighbor. It wasn't even a friend. It was a man I had seen only once, years ago, at a family event. A man with cold, calculating eyes. And as soon as I saw him, I knew my mother's secret was no longer hers alone. This was bigger than Christmas. This was a war. And now, I was in the middle of it. I tried to speak, but the words caught in my throat. He didn't give me a chance. You've been looking for the wrong answers, Lucas, he said, stepping forward. Now, you're in the way. The door slammed shut behind me, and for the first time, I understood just how dangerous my family really was. The knock on the door wasn't unexpected, but it still sent a shiver down my spine. I stood there for a moment, frozen, before I forced myself to move. My hands shook slightly as I reached for the handle, my mind racing with 100 thoughts. I wasn't ready for what I might find on the other side, but then again, when was I ever ready for the truth? When I opened the door, I found myself face to face with a man I hadn't seen in years. His expression was cold, calculating, like a ghost who'd come back to haunt me. My father's old business partner. A man who had been nothing but a shadow in my childhood memories. But standing here now, he was all too real. Lucas Bishop, he said with a slight nod. His voice was low, steady. We need to talk. I didn't invite him in. I wasn't sure I even wanted to know what he was here for. My mind was still reeling from the discovery on the laptop, $850 million. Money that wasn't supposed to exist. My family's wealth had never been what I thought. The deeper I dug, the more I realized how far down this rabbit hole went. I'm listening, I said, trying to mask the panic bubbling inside me. The man stepped in without waiting for permission. I don't think you understand, Lucas. Your family's affairs are far more complicated than you think. I didn't speak. I didn't need to. His words hung in the air, a slow, suffocating realization settling in my gut. I closed the door behind us, instinctively locking it. This wasn't just a visit. It was an invasion. What do you know about the money? He asked, his eyes narrowing. I felt my pulse quicken. I hadn't told anyone about the files, no one except the shadows in my own head. What money? I forced the words out, though I knew he was aware of everything. The $850 million. My father's dark dealings. The empire built on lies. His lips curled into a tight, knowing smile. You don't get it, do you? The money isn't just in your family's name. It's the foundation of everything, every move, every decision that has ever been made. You're caught in the middle of something much bigger than you realize. I clenched my fists. The anger was bubbling now, mixing with a deep sense of betrayal. What do you want from me? I want you to understand what you're dealing with. This isn't just about you, Lucas. It never was. You're a part of something, whether you like it or not. His words twisted in my head. Part of something? I felt trapped, as if the walls were closing in. Every new piece of information, every revelation, was a chain tightening around me. How do you know about the money? I asked, the question on the edge of my breath. The fear was raw now, clawing at my throat. The man stepped closer. Because your father was my partner. We built this empire together. And when he died, he paused, his eyes hardening. When he faked his death, it wasn't just for a fresh start. It was because he knew people were closing in. He knew the truth would come out eventually. But now, you're digging too deep. You've seen too much. I felt like the floor had been pulled out from under me. My father wasn't dead. He wasn't a victim of some tragic accident. He had orchestrated everything, the fake death, the cover-ups, the secrets hidden away for decades. You're lying, I spat, my voice trembling. He's dead. I saw the body. The man's expression didn't change. You've seen what they wanted you to see. Your mother, your brother, they've all been in on it. His words hit harder than any punch could. I staggered back, trying to process what he was saying. My mother? Ryan? They knew? He nodded slowly, his eyes never leaving mine. They know everything. And they've kept you in the dark for your whole life. You're a pawn in a game that was set long before you were born. I could feel the weight of it crushing me. Every memory of family dinners, holidays, the times I thought I was doing something good, all of it was a lie. A carefully constructed illusion. Why are you telling me this? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. Because, he said, stepping closer, you're the key. You're the one who can stop it all. If you make the right choices. If you don't, the game continues, and you'll be nothing more than a pawn in their hands. The words hung in the air, suffocating me, drowning me in the realization that I was already too deep into something I didn't understand. Make the right choices? I asked, my voice breaking. What does that even mean? His eyes flickered with something dark, something dangerous. It means that whatever you do next will change everything. You can take the money and run. You can join them. Or you can expose them and destroy your entire family in the process. I wanted to say something, but I couldn't find the words. My mind was spinning. How could I trust him? How could I trust anyone? The silence stretched between us like a chasm. You're in a dangerous position, Lucas. You need to decide. Now, he added, his voice cold, but his eyes were intense, unblinking. The air was thick with tension. My chest felt tight as I realized just how alone I was. The walls in my apartment seemed to close in on me. Outside, the Christmas lights in the distance twinkled like they were mocking me, reminding me of everything I thought I had. Before I could respond, the man turned, heading toward the door. I'll give you time to think. But remember this, time's running out. I watched him leave, the door clicking shut behind him, but the words still echoed in my head. I was no longer just a forgotten son. I was in the middle of something far darker. And there was no turning back. As I stood there, alone in the silence, the weight of the choices ahead pressed down on me. The truth was out there, but did I really want to know it? And more importantly, did I have the strength to expose the family that had built an empire on lies? The air in my apartment felt thick, almost suffocating, as I stared at the door through which he had just walked. The man, the shadow of my father's business partner, had left a lingering taste of danger in the room. My breath was shallow, each exhale a forced effort, as I tried to wrap my head around everything he'd said. My father wasn't dead. And now, I was tangled in something I could never escape. My fingers hovered over the laptop keyboard, still open to the encrypted file I had discovered earlier. The numbers on the screen were seared into my mind, $850 million. I had thought it was just another anomaly, another quirk of my family's ever-expanding wealth. But now, I knew better. The money wasn't just wealth. It was the foundation of everything, of every hidden deal, every sacrifice. It was what kept my family's secrets intact. I closed the laptop with a snap, the sound echoing louder than it should have. I couldn't focus on the numbers anymore. I had bigger problems. Someone knew what I had found, and they didn't want me digging any deeper. I stood up and paced around the room. The space felt claustrophobic now, like the walls were closing in on me. Every corner, every shadow seemed to hold a whisper, a warning. Had I been watched all along? The strange man, the cold eyes, was this just the beginning? The phone buzzed on the table. I didn't need to look to know it was my brother, Ryan. He'd been calling nonstop since the moment I'd hung up on our mother. No surprise there. Ryan always liked to play the peacekeeper, the perfect son who could do no wrong in their eyes. I answered the phone without greeting. What is it? Lucas, what the hell is going on? Mom's freaking out. You can't just cut ties like that. We need to talk. I leaned against the window, staring out into the Los Angeles skyline. The city felt so far away from my reality now. The lights twinkled in the distance, oblivious to the storm that was about to tear my life apart. She doesn't need me. She made that clear. You don't get it, do you? Ryan's voice rose, frustration creeping in. She's been doing everything for years. You think you're the only one who's sacrificed? Sacrificed? I laughed bitterly. You have no idea what sacrifice is. Mom's had everything handed to her, and I've been the one keeping her damn holiday perfect. Do you even know what she's done to keep that image intact? There was silence on the other end. I could almost hear Ryan's mind turning. The realization hit him, just like it had hit me. He didn't know. He had never known. Look, I don't have time for this, I said, cutting him off. I'm not coming back this year. I'm done pretending. Another long pause. You can't just quit the family, Lucas. That's not how this works. No, Ryan, I said quietly. That's exactly how it works now. I hung up without waiting for a response. The tension in my chest was unbearable. I walked to the kitchen, trying to shake off the anger. But the more I thought about it, the more the pieces of the puzzle fell into place. Something wasn't right. The strange man who had come to my door, the money, the fake death, it was all connected. My family's wealth had a price, one that I had been paying without even realizing it. And now, I was deep in the middle of a game that I couldn't get out of. I had to keep digging. But I had to be careful. The sound of a car door slamming outside made me freeze. My heart raced. I walked quickly to the window, my breath caught in my throat. A black SUV was parked across the street, the engine still running. My eyes darted around, trying to see if anyone was watching. Was I being followed? I stepped away from the window and grabbed my coat. I couldn't stay here, not with the fear of being watched pressing down on me. I needed answers, and I needed them fast. The walls were closing in, and I could feel the air thinning around me. I grabbed my phone, opened the encrypted file once more, and stared at the list of names attached to those offshore accounts. Names I didn't recognize. But they were connected. I could feel it. Whoever was behind this web of lies, whoever was watching me, was getting closer. The doorbell rang, sharp and jarring. I froze. This wasn't a friendly knock. I slowly walked to the door, trying to steady my breath. Through the peephole, I saw a figure standing on the other side. A woman, tall, dark-haired, dressed in black. She looked professional, but something about her made me uneasy. I didn't open the door. Lucas Bishop, she called, her voice low but authoritative. I need to speak with you. I didn't respond. My instincts screamed at me to stay quiet, to retreat into the safety of the apartment. But I was no longer safe. Not anymore. Lucas, she repeated, this time with more urgency. We both know you've been looking into things you shouldn't. I'm here to make sure you don't make things worse. The air between us thickened. I could feel the weight of her presence, the threat she carried. This wasn't just some random visit. She knew about the file, she knew about my family's empire. And she was here to stop me from finding out more. My hand hovered over the door handle. My mind raced through the possibilities. But one thing was clear. I was already in too deep, and there was no going back. I couldn't let her stop me. Not now. I opened the door. But I didn't invite her in. She stepped inside anyway, her heels clicking sharply against the wooden floor. The woman was tall, her dark hair sleek and professional, dressed in black, the kind of outfit that would make her disappear in a crowd but stand out in a room of movers and shakers. Her eyes, cold and calculating, swept across the space like she was already measuring its worth. She didn't look like someone who would knock at your door and tell you that your whole life was about to unravel. But here we were. I'm not interested in playing games, I said, keeping my voice level, though the tension in my chest was unbearable. The door shut behind her with a soft thud, sealing us in the apartment together. She didn't answer right away. Instead, she took a slow, deliberate step forward, her heels clicking with each movement. There was a calmness about her, the kind of stillness that only someone who's seen far too much could possess. "You've been looking into things you shouldn't, Lucas," she said, her voice low and measured, but it carried weight. "And now, you're in the way." I flinched at the finality in her tone. A chill ran down my spine. She knew everything. I hadn't even told anyone about the file I'd uncovered. About the $850 million. The offshore accounts. Yet somehow, she knew. The walls were closing in on me, and I could feel the pressure building. "Who are you?" My question came out sharper than I intended, my pulse quickening. I wasn't sure if I was afraid of her or afraid of what she knew about me. She smiled, but it wasn't a friendly smile. It was a predator's smile. "Let's just say I'm someone who's been watching you for a while. Someone who's paid attention." Her eyes flickered around the room, scanning every detail. "You're asking questions you shouldn't be asking, and trust me, that's a problem." I backed away, hands pressed to the edge of the table for support. "What do you want from me?" "I'm not here for you, Lucas," she said, her voice growing colder. "I'm here for your family. For your mother, mostly. And for the secrets she's been keeping." A wave of nausea hit me, the words slamming into me with the force of a freight train. My mother. The secrets. I had been a fool, hadn't I? For thinking I could handle this on my own, for thinking the things I was uncovering were just about me. This was bigger than that. Bigger than anything I could have imagined. I forced myself to breathe through the panic that was rising in my chest. "What do you know about my family?" I whispered, my voice tight. She stepped closer, her heels clicking, the sound like the ticking of a clock counting down to something inevitable. "Your mother's empire, her so-called perfect life, it's built on lies, Lucas. You've been a pawn in her game. And now, you've stepped too far into her territory." I shook my head, refusing to believe it. I had seen my mother manipulate people before, control every situation, but this was something else entirely. "I don't believe you." Her gaze softened just a touch. "You're going to have to. The money you found? The $850 million? It's just the tip of the iceberg. It's been hidden for years. But that's not the worst part. The worst part is that your father wasn't who you thought he was. Your mother wasn't who you thought she was. And you, Lucas, you're in the middle of it all." I felt my world shift beneath me, the ground falling away. The breath caught in my chest, and for a moment, I couldn't speak. "My father, he's dead," I stammered. Her smile didn't falter. "Is he?" The words hung in the air, like a punch I didn't see coming. "No. That's not possible." "Oh, but it is." She stepped forward again, her presence suffocating. "Your father faked his death, Lucas. And it wasn't for you. It was for the money. The empire he was building. He's been alive all this time, pulling strings, keeping his hands clean. And now it's your turn to decide whether you're going to play along or expose everything." My head spun. I couldn't breathe. The truth was crashing over me, drowning me in it. My father wasn't dead? He wasn't the man I had believed him to be? He had been a part of something far darker than I could have ever imagined. "Why are you telling me this?" I managed to ask, barely a whisper. "Because you need to know what you're up against," she said simply. "Your family's wealth, the legacy your mother built, it's all based on blood money. Your father knew it, your mother knew it, and now you know it. You can turn your back on it, expose them, or you can take the power that's rightfully yours." The weight of her words settled over me, like a blanket of cold, suffocating silence. I was caught in a trap of my own making. This wasn't just about my family anymore. This was about power, control, and the price I'd have to pay if I wanted to claim any of it for myself. "I'm not part of this," I muttered, my chest tightening. I never asked for any of it. She smiled again, but this time, it was colder, harder. No, Lucas. You've always been part of it. You just never knew it. Now, you're the key. It's up to you whether you step into the light, or stay in the shadows. She turned and walked toward the door, her heels clicking on the hardwood floor like a countdown. You'll make a decision soon enough, she called over her shoulder. But remember this, you're already in too deep. There's no turning back now. The door slammed behind her. And for the first time, I felt the full weight of my choices closing in on me. The truth was out there, but now, so was the danger. I was no longer the son who quietly arranged Christmas dinners. I was a man caught in the grip of something far bigger. And there was no escaping it. I could feel my pulse in my throat, pounding like a drum, as I stared at the door where the woman had just left. The air in the apartment was thick, oppressive. My heart still raced. I had stepped into a world I didn't belong in, a world of secrets, lies, and people who played a game I couldn't even begin to understand. There was no escaping it now. I didn't know her name, but I knew one thing for sure, she wasn't here for anything good. And she wasn't the only one. Whoever was watching, whoever was pulling the strings behind the scenes, they weren't going to stop until they had control of everything. I ran a hand through my hair, trying to shake off the chill that gripped me. Your father faked his death, the woman's words echoed in my mind. He's been alive all this time. The truth didn't just sting, it burned. I had spent years mourning a man who wasn't dead. He hadn't left me by accident, he had disappeared on purpose. And my mother? She had known. All along. She had built this perfect family, this perfect image of Christmas, while I had been nothing more than a pawn. A loud knock on the door startled me out of my thoughts. I froze, my body stiff with anticipation. Could it be her again? Or someone else? I didn't have time to find out. I grabbed the gun I'd kept hidden in the drawer, feeling its weight in my hand. I wasn't going to be caught off guard again. I approached the door cautiously, peeking through the peephole. My stomach dropped when I saw who it was. Ryan. My heart twisted in my chest. He was standing there, hands in his pockets, staring straight ahead like he had something to say. But I wasn't sure if I wanted to hear it. I opened the door, not saying a word. Can we talk? He asked, his voice softer than usual. I didn't respond immediately, but I stepped aside to let him in. He walked in without a word, his footsteps heavy. As soon as the door clicked shut behind him, I could feel the tension between us. What's going on, Lucas? Ryan asked, his eyes searching mine for some kind of answer he didn't know he was looking for. You tell me, I said, the words coming out colder than I intended. You know what's going on. Mom, she's been lying to me my whole life. And you've been in on it, haven't you? Ryan flinched at the accusation. What are you talking about? I'm not in on anything. You've been acting crazy, disconnected. You don't know what she's dealing with. She's been keeping this family together for years. Keeping it together? I spat. By lying? By hiding everything from me? You're part of this. You're just as much in the dark as I was, playing your part, pretending everything's fine while she keeps us in the dark. Ryan's face twisted with frustration. I don't know what you're trying to say, but this is ridiculous. You've always been the one who kept the family together during the holidays, always the one making sure everything runs smoothly. You don't understand the pressure she's been under. Pressure? I barked, taking a step closer to him. You think she's under pressure? What about me? What about the years I've spent sacrificing everything to make her look good while she walks away with all the credit? Ryan opened his mouth to argue but stopped. There was something in his eyes now, something darker, something he hadn't let slip before. I found something, I said, my voice lowering. I found the money, Ryan. The $850 million. It's all there, and it's all tied to the things Dad was involved in. The things Mom has been hiding. She's been lying to us about everything. Dad isn't dead, Ryan. He's been alive this whole time. And I shook my head. You've been playing along with all of it. Ryan's face drained of color. His expression flickered between confusion and something close to fear. What are you talking about? Dad died years ago. I don't understand. You don't understand because you've never bothered to look. You've always been the golden boy, Ryan. The one Mom could count on to play the part. I was seething now, my words tumbling out of me, unfiltered. But everything's a lie. And you're a part of it. You've always been a part of it. He took a step back, clearly taken aback by the accusation, but his eyes flickered with something else now, something I didn't quite recognize. You don't know what you're talking about, he said, voice wavering slightly. You're just angry. Angry? I interrupted, my voice rising. I'm angry because I've spent my entire life in the dark. I've done everything to make this family look perfect, to make Mom look like she's got it all together. And you know what? I'm done. Ryan's eyes narrowed. Done with what? Done with hiding the truth, I said, my voice firm now. Done with being her puppet. Done with being part of her twisted little show. For a moment, there was silence between us. Then, Ryan spoke again, but this time, his voice was different, colder. If you think exposing all of this is going to fix things, you're wrong. It's not going to bring Dad back, and it's not going to change anything. You'll just end up ruining everything. Ruining us. I don't care, I said flatly, the words leaving my lips like ice. It's already ruined. Ryan stared at me for a long moment. Then, with a heavy sigh, he turned toward the door. Fine. You want to destroy everything, go ahead. But don't expect me to stand by and watch it happen. I stood there, watching him leave, the weight of his words settling heavily in the pit of my stomach. But something had shifted. I wasn't the same person who had started this search for the truth. I wasn't the same person who had let my family's lies define me. Now, I was ready to burn it all down. As Ryan's footsteps faded, I turned back to the laptop. The truth was just within reach, but I could feel someone watching me again, someone waiting to see if I would make my next move. I had no choice now. I was already in too deep. And there was no turning back. The sound of my breath was the only thing I could hear as I stood in front of the massive glass doors of my mother's estate. The city lights flickered in the distance, a beautiful illusion of safety. It felt like a lifetime ago when I had stood here, just a son trying to make his family proud. Now, all I could feel was the weight of the truth, and the dangerous game that had taken over my life. Inside, the house was quiet, too quiet. The usual bustling energy of the holiday season was absent, replaced by a palpable tension that hung in the air like smoke. The perfect Christmas, my mother's ideal, had been nothing but a facade. And now, the house was nothing more than a battlefield. I stepped into the foyer, my shoes clicking against the marble floor, each step heavier than the last. My mother was waiting for me in the parlor, her back to me, her figure framed by the fireplace's soft glow. She turned when she heard me approach, her expression unreadable. You shouldn't have come, she said, her voice low, almost regretful. I clenched my fists. I didn't come for Christmas, Mom. I came for the truth. Her lips tightened into a thin line, and for a moment, I saw something in her eyes, fear, perhaps, or guilt. But she masked it quickly, like she always did. You've already heard enough, she said, her voice steady but cold. You don't need to know anything else. It's over, Lucas. Over? I scoffed. It's never been over. You've been controlling this family for years, lying to everyone. You don't get to decide what I know or don't know anymore. She straightened, her face hardening. I did what I had to do. I protected you. All of you. This empire was never meant to be yours to uncover. I took a step forward, my pulse pounding in my ears. The empire? You mean the one built on lies and blood money? The one that's been kept together by secrets? You think you protected me by keeping me in the dark? You think I wanted any of this? Any of you? Her eyes flickered, and for a split second, I saw something shift inside her, a crack in the armor she had built for so long. But then it was gone. You don't understand, she said softly, as though explaining something to a child. You never could. A heavy silence filled the room, and for a moment, I thought I might lose it. But I had come too far. I had already lost everything, and I wasn't going to back down now. Why? I asked, my voice quiet but intense. Why did you do it? What made you lie to me? To us? She didn't respond right away. Her gaze dropped to the floor, then back to me. Because I had no choice. I made sacrifices, Lucas. I kept this family together, and that's the only thing that mattered. You and Ryan, you were always my priority. Your priority? I laughed bitterly. You made us pawns in your game. You used us to build your perfect little life. And what about Dad? Where is he, Mom? Where's my father? Her eyes flashed with something I couldn't read, but it wasn't fear, it was something darker. Your father is gone. That's all that matters. He didn't care about any of us. And I couldn't let him destroy everything. Something in her words struck me. He's alive, isn't he? You kept him hidden. The money, everything, it was all him, wasn't it? She didn't deny it. Instead, she took a deep breath, her shoulders sagging. I did it to protect you, she repeated, but this time, the words sounded hollow. By lying? By keeping us in the dark? You think that's protection? Her eyes narrowed, and for a brief moment, I saw her mask slip again. You think you can just expose everything, Lucas? Destroy everything we've built? You think the world will just forgive you? You've seen too much. You've already made your choice. Now you'll have to live with the consequences. The room grew colder. The shadows in the corners seemed to grow darker. I could feel the weight of her words sinking in, too late to turn back, but the truth had already set me on this path. There was no undoing it. Before I could respond, I heard footsteps behind me. I turned quickly, and there he was, Ryan. His face was pale, his eyes wide with panic. What the hell is going on? He demanded, his voice shaking. What have you done, Lucas? I glanced at my mother, then back at Ryan. I'm not the one who's been lying, I said flatly. It's all been a lie. You knew about Dad. You knew about the money. Ryan stepped back, his face frozen. No. I didn't. But his voice trailed off as he looked at my mother, and I saw it then, the guilt. The understanding that had always been lurking beneath the surface. You didn't know, did you? I said quietly. You've been just as much a puppet as I was. Mom has had control of everything, for years. And you didn't even know what it cost. Ryan's eyes filled with something close to regret, but it was too late for him. Too late for any of us. The damage had already been done. I turned away from him and looked at my mother one last time. You wanted control. You wanted power. But in the end, all you've done is destroy us. I'm done. As I walked toward the door, I could hear my mother's voice, trembling now. You don't have to do this, Lucas. Please, don't do this. But I didn't stop. I couldn't. I stepped out into the night, the door slamming shut behind me. The weight of the world was still heavy on my shoulders, but for the first time in years, I felt free. I had taken the truth. I had exposed the lies. And in the end, that was all that mattered. The empire had crumbled. My family was no more. And now, all I had left was myself. The truth was ugly, but it was mine. And that, in the end, was all that I needed.